top 100 financial advisor, two-time author, one-time bestseller, and we are here to discuss the stock market. I think it is time to go back and reevaluate a stock that has been very popular over the last few months. It also lost a lot of money over the last few months, but I think it's time to talk about it, reevaluate, and see whether or not it can make sense and what we should expect moving forward. As always, and you guys have heard me and what I do with my strategy, you should come back and reevaluate regularly. What may have been a terrible idea 3 months ago might actually be a decent idea today. So it kind of takes your emotions out of it, gets you in the right place, and really kind of gives you a good level set and may, in some cases, help prevent some losses. So before we get into that, make sure that you grab your phone, your tablet, your TV, whatever it is you're watching this on, which you can't watch it on TV, which is kind of weird. Go ahead and hit the share button. I will be monitoring here for comments and questions as well. You guys know, as a former teacher, I enjoy questions. So if you have any, feel free to pop those into the chat. I'm waiting on this to load so that I can practice what I preach and share as well. Always the best way to pay is to share. So I appreciate that. All right. So as this is coming up, I want to let you guys know about the Investors Toolkit. It is my premier course that helps you to understand the stock market, find out where to start and how to start, even if you feel like you don't have a lot of money. Because a lot of people feel like, hey, look, I don't have $200, $300, $400, $500 to start investing. What do I do? And how do I know if a stock is good? How do I know what to look for, what not to look for? I have all of that here in this course. And if you look down, I do have a free preview. So if you're looking to figure out, like, what is this course about? What can I learn? Make sure you hit the free preview. You can learn all about it. Additionally, the most important thing that I always impart to everyone is that not every stock is for you. Not every stock is for you. The stock that I'm going to bring up and talk about today may not be for you, and that's okay. But the only way that you're going to know what's for you and what's not for you is to understand what type of investor you are. If you don't know that, you're going to pick the wrong stocks. If you pick the wrong stocks, you're going to lose money. If you lose money, you're not going to be able to grow wealth and create generational wealth and live the life that you want to live. So those are the things that you want to pay attention to. Obviously, we break everything down, which is my favorite part. I took a lot of time and research to talking to people just like you to figure out what exactly you need, what order do you need it, and how to answer nearly every investing question you have as a beginner, from what stocks to choose, what accounts to open, how to open an account, what buttons do we push. And I think it is in module 4. How to open an account. There is a live video, or it's a recorded video of me opening a real account that I still have open today. I should put some money into it, but it shows you like me actually opening a real account so that you can understand and walk through that process. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. If you have any questions about the course, feel free to let me know. Click the link above, and then again, don't forget to hit share. All right, now, all right, I appreciate that. All right, so now the stock is Boeing. Boeing was up 14% today on some good news that their 737 MAX plane had ended its first test with the FAA. If you recall, and it's been a long year, at the end of last year, the Boeing 737 MAX, they had 2 prominent plane crashes. Lots of people died, which is not great. And obviously the stock fell. Many airlines, including Southwest and others, were like, look, we're not flying these planes anymore. It's pretty much grounded across the world and was pretty much blacklisted. So Boeing obviously needs to fix those issues. A part of that is going through the FAA's processes and testing and upgrades. Today, they released that they had passed the first part of test, or the first part of these tests have ended. I'm not sure how long this process will be, and the stock market was happy about that. In fact, Boeing is one of our largest exporters. If you know anything about planes, it's pretty much Boeing and Airbus, and that's it. And everybody in the world pretty much only uses one of those two. And because planes are so expensive, it is a big part of our overall economy. If Boeing does well, like it did today, the stock market does well, and vice versa. Now, it's not just this one company. Obviously, tech weighs heavily on that as well, but it is a major player. And the fact that it did pass its first test, or ended its first test, this is a good sign for Boeing. I think, based on what we know today, it could be a good value moving forward. And I want to show you a few reasons why. We go into Yahoo Finance, and you will see that over the past year, ooh, did not mean to do that. Over the past year, and I'll just move myself down here. Obviously, it took a huge dip with the coronavirus, as most of the market did. As you see here, this is the S&P 500. I'm going to get rid of this for now. I always like to have the S&P 500 there, but I'm going to move it for now. And as you see, it, again, right around March, it was not doing all that well before, because remember they had the crashes and had the issues there. It took a huge dip, and it is on the way back to a degree. There was a huge spike here, which I'm not sure what happened on this day, earlier this month, and it's kind of on its way back. But again, this is a small sample size. This is just the last, 3 months? So let's hit this, 3 months. And this looks incredible for the last 3 months. But remember, the last 3 months is not going to predict the next 3 months in the future. Now, if you get a 6-month timeline, it does, studies show from UCLA and others, that it can kind of give you somewhat of predictive value. But again, it's not the strongest in the world. If you see here, over the last 6 months, it is still down 41%. Now, what I would say, and let me give you this, just for context, because context is key. What did the S&P 500 do over the last 6 months? And remember, the coronavirus really hurt a lot of this. You can see that the overall stock market lost 5%, almost 6%. Boeing lost 41%. So if you decide and think that this is a stock for you, know that it could be a while before it gets back. However, again, it's at close to $200. It was earlier, I think it was at the end of last year, it was close to 300. So it is closer to the 300 mark than what it was just a few months ago, as you can see here, when it was just at 97. So that's one thing to note. On March 19th, if you see here in the left-hand corner, you can see that it closed at $90.35. You go from $90 per share to $194. You essentially made, or would have made, $100 per share between mid-March and now. But you can see it's not the most straight line in the world. Now that we've kind of gotten out of that hard stint, now you can decide whether or not you want to invest in it. Again, this is not to say that it's going to go from 194 to 394 or 294 in the next 6 to 3 months or 3 to 6 months. We don't know that, but I think now it could. I see it now. I have enough evidence now that Boeing is likely going to be okay, that we did not have 3 months ago. So now we've passed the first test. We know things are great, or what we know right now, we know things are fine, and we have a path moving forward. 3 months ago, we did not have that. 3 months ago, everything was falling. You were down. You were at $300 a share, or whatever it was, a few months prior. There were no tests, and they still have more things to get through. There was no guarantee. There was no guarantee that this test was going to be positive, and we don't know how many tests there are, and they could fail some tests between now and then. So there's still a large risk. I do want to show you this, though, and this is going back over the past 5 years. And as you can see, let me move myself up here now. As you can see, Boeing had done incredibly well since about 2017, outperforming the market by leaps and bounds. And as you can see here, this was in February, it was $318 per share. Actually, yeah, about $314 or so per share. Again, as you can see down here, there's a very, very long way for Boeing to go, but it is trending upwards. Now is a time to reevaluate and see, do you think you can hold for the long term? Because this is not over. That's why I'm not saying I'm buying Boeing today, because this isn't over. The second wave is still out there. It is still out there. That is still a threat. If that wave does occur, if we have an issue with that, it could very well affect Boeing as well as others. Another stock that I would consider looking at, and we've talked about this one before, of all the airlines, I've always said that if I had to choose one, it was going to be Boeing, which is a manufacturer, or Southwest. Southwest also rose today, and I want to say it was 17% if I remember correctly. Let me scroll down. Let's see. I know I read it. I didn't make it up. Southwest. There we go. Southwest. I'm sorry, it's only 10%. Still a lot though. So Southwest was up 10%. Going back to 2007, this is a few weeks old now. Southwest was the only airline that was positive. Positive meaning being, or it was the only. Yes, it was the only airline that was positive. It was the only airline that even got close to beating the S&P 500 at 87 or so percent. Even though the stock market was up like 99 or 97% over that time, it was very close. All other airlines, all the U.S. airlines were negative. So again, it's possible. It is possible to reevaluate and perhaps look into it. However, know that the road is very, very, very long. Or I would expect the road to be very long until it comes through to a full recovery. We can also compare, and let's do this too, and I'm live thinking through this as well, and feel free to ask any questions or things as I'm thinking out loud about this. Let's do this. I want to compare it to Southwest and just see how they compare to each other. So over the past year, you can see Southwest has actually weathered the storm a bit better. They're both still down. Okay, so not that we would expect it to be any different, but there's a 15% gap between the two, where you would have had a better cushion. But again, if we throw in the S&P 500, which is always our benchmark, we can see that, and we'll see what it is. You can see that still, when you invest in index funds, you're actually easier. It's a little better off. You actually have made money during the virus. You can see this dip is not as severe. This is why index funds are important. It's also why you need to understand how different stocks move for different reasons. As you can see, Boeing was down because they make planes, but they also had an issue earlier, which also made things much worse. But again, I think it is okay to evaluate and see where things are now and how they may be able to play in the long term. But I would still expect, and this is just an expectation, I would expect it could be a year or two before you start to see Boeing. Well, I don't know, at this rate, right? We don't know. So I'm saying this. I think it could take at least a year before Boeing gets back to 300s. I'm saying that though, with the expectation that a second wave is going to drag the entire market down. Now, if that doesn't happen at this rate, they'll be there before the end of the year. But again, there's so many things that are out there, which is why I don't like to really throw out those guesses. But it makes sense to look at it now. We finally have something on record to say at least they are going in the right direction. That coronavirus is still out there. Election is still out there. I don't think the election is going to affect these two stocks particularly, but I do think that this is a good sign for Boeing. You still got the virus is the only thing that scares me a bit. So personally, I'm still staying out. It's 5,000 other stocks I can invest in, but I don't hate it the way I did a few months ago. If you invested a few months ago, great. You took a big risk and you have been rewarded for that risk. But that's not a risk that everyone wants to take. So again, I think Boeing could make sense for the long-term investor. This is not something I would invest in right now and think in a month or in 2 months I'm going to be super rich. It is possible, but I just think there's a bigger risk. All you need is I'm gonna pull this up here over the last 1 month. All you need is one bad headline to tell you that something is going on in the market, and that's just it for this entire stock. And as you can see here, I just put up over the last month. You can see as high as 218, and you see it's below 218 now. So like this little dip here was not fun for you, and it still hasn't gotten back to where it was earlier this month. So again, it's going to be up and down. Expect for it to be up and down if you decide to get it. I think it makes more sense now than what it did a few months ago. But if you do it, this is a long-term thing. I wouldn't even touch it or mess with it. If I'm doing it, I'm putting my money in it, and I'm not even gonna look because it's gonna be very bumpy, turbulence, if you will. So that's what I want to impart onto you. It makes more sense now than what it did. It is still very risky. Tomorrow, it's either going to be tomorrow or on July 1st. I'm going to put out my new watch list, my updated watch list. Boeing is probably not going to be on there. I still think the Netflixes and the Amazons and others aren't going to give me as much risk. That's what I'm trying to manage. How much money can I make with taking the lowest or reasonable amount of risk? That's what really matters here. So check out that. It'll be here. It'll also be on Instagram. And you get the full list because I'm only going to give you a sample of it. You'll get the full list in the Investors Toolkit. It's buildingbread.com/tools. And you'll see down here my monthly stock list. So you get the entire list and how to use it and what to do with it inside of the course. So you do want to check that out. If you want to see the full list as well as learn everything that I'm teaching you and how I use that, then go to buildingbread.com/tools. Now I'm going to check our questions and see what questions we have, if we have any. Let me check those out. And I don't see any right now, so I'll take the first 2 questions or so that you may have. And let me know, what do you feel about Boeing? What do you feel about Southwest? Did you own them before and you just held on to them? Are you still going to wait until you see something from these? Like, what are your thoughts on these two? I'd love to know what you guys are thinking as well. I'll go back to the article while I'm waiting for those. All right, I don't see any. Oh, we got one. Ari owns shares of Facebook, Pepsi, McDonald's, and UPS. Do you think it is worth staying consistent and buying more shares of these stocks during the dip? Basically, do you think these stocks are solid for a long-term investor? Great question. So I don't know about UPS just because it's just not a stock that's on my mind. I can say with my opinion, I do think Pepsi, McDonald's, and Facebook are good long term. I'm not saying that UPS isn't. I just don't know off the top of my head how solid UPS is. I don't know. My assumption is that it is, but again, assumptions are only worth but so much. But definitely Facebook, Pepsi, and McDonald's, like that's something I would invest in every month if I owned all 3. I do own Facebook. I've had Facebook for at least 5 years now. At least right now, I intend on keeping it. But yeah, those are at least 3 of those 4 I know for a fact. For me, I would definitely hold on to. For UPS, I would just need to go and do more research and see. If I looked at it and UPS was outperforming the S&P 500 for the last 5 years or so, I probably would keep it. I would imagine that people are still sending things. I would imagine, I don't know who Amazon uses to ship their things. I thought it was UPS. I don't know. Those are things that I would look into. But definitely 3 out of those 4, I would continue investing in. I would say also for you, if depending on how long you've invested in it, I would see how much money have you made in UPS and how long have you had it. If you've had UPS for more than 2 years and it hasn't done anything for you, take UPS out and put somebody else in the game that is doing well. Hold it for a year, hold it for 6 months, and reevaluate. But that's how I would approach it. But I feel like, based on what you've given me, 3 out of the 4 are definite locks. UPS is just one I need to look into. Why do you use Southwest versus United as a benchmark? So I didn't use Southwest versus United. What I did was have Southwest and Boeing. I used the S&P 500, unless I did it by mistake. I used the S&P 500 as a benchmark. The reason why we use that as a benchmark is that's what we use. We say the stock market, for the most part, is doing well. The stock market is doing bad. The reason we do that is because I could, and I do, and I think most investors should. I own index funds. I have index funds. I have a little bit in individual stocks. I take less risk by investing in 500 companies. So why would I take on more risk by saying, instead of picking these 500, I'm going to pick one company? Why do that unless I'm going to make more money? That's why I compare it. So if I say I'm not going to invest in the S&P 500, I'm going to put my money in Boeing instead, well, you better be doing better than these other 500 companies. Because if not, I can take on less risk and make more money. So that's how I look at it. That's why we use that as a benchmark. I have United Airlines holding. Okay. And that, hopefully that makes sense. I don't know how United has done over the last like recent history, so 2 years or so. Um, I mean, at this point, I might as well hold it until this thing is all over with. You're going to see a lot of turbulence, both positive and negative. I would, we can look and see how United has done. I just don't want to give you a guess. I assume United was up today. I don't know that. Um, Usually, if Boeing is up, they're all pretty much up. But as you can see, United is up. It's up pretty big today, 7%. But they're all going to be very, very similar. As you can see, real similar pattern, except Boeing was a bit higher. Everything dipped around this time, and hopefully they continue to go up. I would hold it though. I don't know when you got in, but if I've said this before, if you already owned Delta, if you already owned American or whatever, you might as well just hold it and get as much back as you can out of it. But do expect and know that it's going to be a while. If you don't own it, I don't think that you should jump into it unless it's Southwest, unless you know for a fact that you're going to hold it for a very long time. And for me, when I say very long time, I'm talking 2 to 5 years. We'll see what happens between now and then. Hey, Kevin, is dividend reinvestment a good idea? That is a great question. For those that don't know, well, we'll start with what a dividend is. So a dividend is essentially a payment from the company to you for being a shareholder. Essentially what they say is like, hey, we've made money. You are a shareholder. We are going to pay you $1 for every one share that you own. Sounds great. You get paid for owning the stock. Like they will actually just pay you straight up for owning the stock. In fact, I got a dividend payment from one of my stocks, Nvidia, today. Now it was only 2 cents because I think I only have like $50 invested in it, so it's not much. But I did get paid. Now the thing is, what a dividend reinvestment is that, hey, look, here's your dollar. You're just going to take that dollar and buy more of the company. So you're not really getting the payment, but you're getting, your investment is growing incrementally every time they give you an investment. Usually, I would say 85% of the time, it is a good idea. There's no red flags. The only difference is if you are a dividend investor and you're investing to get those payments, some people try and live off those payments and say, I want this money to go spend on, life or vacation or whatever. So that's the only negative thing if you want to consider that negative. But I do like dividend reinvestments. All of my stocks, with the exception of Nvidia, because it's in Cash App, like 99% of all of my investments are dividend reinvestments. 90% of my stocks have the dividend reinvestment option. And it can also kind of protect you a bit and reduce your losses just a bit if you have that option. So yes, I like it. I'm a fan of it. Again, almost all of my stocks have that option on it. Be proud of your 2 cents. Yes, I am proud of my 2 cents. I woke up, got an email. It's like, hey, you got these are my 2 cents. It was 2 cents I didn't have earlier, so definitely proud of that. And then the stock is also making money. At least since I have had it, it's been making money. So I'm happy with that. I can't buy anything with 2 cents. However, it is 2 cents more than what I had the other day, and it's more than my bank account would have paid me by having that little $50 in a savings. So I will take my 2 cents and go elsewhere. So I'm happy about that. It was also just exciting to say, hey, it's an email saying you have money. So that's great as well. All right, so I'll take one more question, and then if we don't have any, I will see y'all tomorrow. And so I want, truth, absolutely. There's nothing better than waking up to emails saying that you have money. So even if it's 2 cents, that is always a great feeling. So yeah, and then always, like, I have done some videos in the past about dividends. So if you're, don't know what the word means, if you're curious about learning more, then feel free to go back and check that video. I think we did that one in April, if I'm not mistaken, but you can type in Build-A-Bear dividends and all my dividend stuff will come up. All right, on Southwest and sold, never had Boeing, but think it's a good long-term investment. Yeah, I think so too. Just, again, we had talked about this last week too, is just keeping your expectations in the right place. And I am human, so You know, sometimes like I really expected that this was going to do this thing, but I have to get my expectations right and say, look, if I'm investing in this, I don't need to be looking at it every day. You know, I need to just buy it, hold it, and wait until the real payoff, which could be down the line. Like, you know, it could be a year, 2 years, you never know. But as you can see, so I want to zoom out. This is actually United and not the stock we were talking about. So let's go to Boeing. There are some people, so again, if you bought down here mid-March, and in reality, there are a lot of stocks that anybody who would have bought March 19th, March 20th, you would have made a lot of money either way, right? But again, if you bought this at $99, you bought this at $94, whatever time you bought it, you had to wait 3 months until today or a week ago to actually make money. Some people weren't even that patient. Some people bought Boeing and sold it, which would have been great on the 26th. Other people bought the 26th and had made money up until now. So that patience factor is going to be a big thing. We also know that the longer you hold investments, the less you get taxed. That's number one. But also we know that the chances are higher that you're going to make money. So today is at 194. At some point it'll get to 200. At some point in the future, we don't know how long, it'll be back in the 300s and beyond down the line. It's, do you want to get it today and wait 3, 4, 5 years for that? Or do you want to get a stock that we know is growing right now today? All right, so that's it for me. I will see y'all tomorrow. Thank you guys for coming out and thank you for sharing. I'll see y'all later. Bye.